I'm David Mulligan, and this is Mulligan's Do the podcast, music, film, food, and wine. It's film we're talking about. Rod Lurie has joined me. Uh,
Hello.
welcome. I know that you're doing a series of these, and I know that well, frankly, if this were just a normal junket, you might have run out of things to talk about, but not this one, not this film,
No,
not the Outpost.
not the Outpost.
And you and I were at one time both members of the Broadcast Film Critics Association.
Are you still?
I still am.
Excellent.
I still am. And I'm just honored that I had a chance to screen this and then do this interview with you. It's quite something. And frankly, having been a film critic, you know how nasty this business can be.
Yeah. You got pretty bad.
And you're getting
I was pretty bad. In fact, if I may just say something, Terry, I wasn't just a member of the Broadcast Film Critics. I created the group.
Exactly.
Joey Berlin and I created the group together.
And look at it now.
It's unbelievable. It's crazy.
Except the film business has gone sideways.
Mm.
You were supposed to screen at South by Southwest.
Right.
And then an official opening, I think it was July 3rd. It's rolling out now. I see it's the #1 film on iTunes, which is
yes. And I think in all the platforms, actually. So we're very excited about that.
Well, it's probably your wishes and dreams, isn't it?
Well, my wishes and dreams, if we're being honest, is that my film will be in 3,000, 4,000 screens across the country, and that is showing movies. But my wishes and dreams are true. That a lot of people, I mean, millions of people are watching the film right now, and it's succeeded beyond anything that we had hoped. And I think a lot of that comes from the military being very, very supportive of the film and finding it very authentic, and they're wanting to see it, and they want people to see it, and the critical reaction has driven people, and word of mouth has driven people. So yeah, the fact that it's been so well received is very, very touching to me. And you're right, we were supposed to screen at South by Southwest, and that goes down a few days before the festival begins, which really sucked for all of us. But even more sad for me, Terry, was that we were then going to have a big premiere at West Point. And I went to West Point. I was a cadet. I graduated. I was a terrible cadet. And I always sat in that audience as this really shitty cadet and saying, one day I want to come back. I want to be on that stage, and I want to address the cadets, and I just want them all standing when I come in, and I just want that so much. And I want to speak to these guys and tell them I know where you've been, I know where you're going, and I had this opportunity. We were going to bring the cast, we were going to bring the Medal of Honor recipients, and then they sent all the cadets home. No more West Point.
But the story's getting told and is being discovered. Why were you the perfect person to make this film?
I don't know that I was the perfect person to make the film.
It feels like it.
Well, they're very skilled filmmakers out there, but I'll tell you why it was a perfect film for me to make. And I think that's probably the better approach, Harry. And that is this. Like I said, graduated from West Point in 1984, but I graduated into the peacetime army. And I never felt a bullet go by my head. I never fired a bullet at an enemy. I never really sensed that my life was in that serious a danger. But a lot of my classmates did. A lot of my classmates felt the horrors of the battlefield. And when I go back to reunions, I'm the guy that wasn't on the field. I'm one of the guys.
Yeah. And
that doesn't feel good. So if I could have an opportunity to make a movie that will honor these guys, then I was going to take it. And this was probably the most famous and important battle of the Afghanistan war, certainly the most heroic. And when it was brought to me, I was certain that I would make the film. And I put everything I had into it. I mean, everything.
This is a two-part question. The second part's going to maybe be a couple of minutes down the road. To set the scene for us, October the 3rd, 2009.
Yeah. Well, the scene is that you've got an outpost in northeastern Afghanistan. You're in the Nuristan Valley. and your outpost is at the bottom of the Hindu Kush Mountains.
Yeah.
You don't have the high ground. You're in a valley. And, you know, when you first came here months ago and you looked up at those mountains, you knew that one day all of these Taliban are going to descend upon you, and in far greater numbers than you have, with probably far greater weaponry. And that is exactly what happened beginning at 5:58 a.m. on the morning of October 3rd, 2009. That Bravo Troop 361 is completely overwhelmed by the Taliban. And our movie, particularly the second half, deals with this battle and how they overcame these odds and how they won uh, these, this battle. Pretty extraordinary stuff.
Were you wanting us, the viewer, to feel many of the same things that those soldiers felt?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of filmmaking, right?
Fear, anger,
Yeah,
anxiety.
fear, anger, anxiety, and I wanted to create a complete sense of immersion, and so we used some unique shooting styles
Yeah.
to in this film in order to achieve that goal. For example, almost every shot in the battle and almost every shot in the movie itself are what we call oneers. Um, these long shots that follow a character and never leave that character.
Yeah.
We don't cut. We don't have, Scott Eastwood firing at a bad guy and then cut to the bad guy falling down. I mean, it happens once in a while, but almost never. And then cut to an explosion and then cut to Scott's feet and Scott's face. No, we just stay with him. We stay with Caleb Landry Jones through this battle. We stay, with Jacob Scipio, who plays Justin Gallegos. We stay with all these guys. And so the sense of immersion is the closest that I can possibly bring you to understanding an impossible feeling, which is, the horror and the fog of battle.
I spent 4 years as a member of the RCMP, a Mountie, and I was surrounded by gunfire, a lot of gunfire, frankly.
Is that right? Okay.
And
is it scary?
Hell yes.
Yeah, of course.
But I got a sense going in, literally in the first couple of minutes, of the honesty with which you wanted your actors to shoot, the camera to see, you to direct. You wanted to honor these men by telling their story the way it went down. And you've been around Hollywood. You know how they can fuck it up. You know that.
Yeah.
This was as good as you could do.
Thank you. I don't know if I should get into this at all, but I guess I just opened the box on it. But you might know, Terry, that while I was shooting my movie, my son died.
Yeah.
And it was during prep, and it was, you have kids?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, fuck, man, just imagine watching your child expire in front of your eyes. And I got word about it, and I flew from Bulgaria to a little town in Michigan, just hoping that my son, who had had a blood clot, would stay alive long enough that I could say goodbye to him. And I did get there in time. And in fact, I had to take all the machines off him. Me and his mom had to make that decision. And we're told he's got about 20 minutes now. And as I'm watching the chest moving up and down a little slower every time, my daughter says to me, you've got to go back and finish this film. I know you don't want to. And when he finally went, when I saw that, the last beat of his chest, Terry, I realized he was the same age as these guys. And I realized I had to go back, and I had to go back for their families too. And I know this sounds corny, and this is not a reason for you have to watch this movie. You just asked a question, and I'm just answering it. And I realized that if I was going to show a movie about the death of my son, I would want it to be accurate. I just would want them to tell the truth. I wouldn't want music. I wouldn't want to heighten anything that didn't happen. Tell the truth and shame the devil. And these families, Terry, the families of these men, they got completely behind me. every pretty much every one of them. And so we were going to tell the truth. And so and what is the truth? The truth is pretty glorious. You know, these men, every one of them died trying to save the life of somebody else. That's why these guys are there now. They're there to survive. They're there to keep their brothers alive, Terry, and that's it. You
Mhm.
know, and so while it is tragic to see these lives lost, it is also inspirational to know what the character of human beings can be.
Mm.
Um, the extreme circumstances reveal your character, and these men revealed their characters. And the American military, the Canadian military, you know, these are two militaries I'm really familiar with. You know, they are filled with men and women of just the most blazing character.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful that I was able to show that.
What I did recognize, by the way, was the dialogue in the beginning. I've seen some armchair critics say, "Yeah, I wanted more character out of these people, not just this smart ass back and forth." But I recognize that because when I spent time in the force, our closest friends were the doctors and nurses that we were constantly
Visiting.
visiting and handing over and saying, "Can you save this?" Um, um, it's dark humor.
Well, yeah,
But it's love. It's absolutely, it's a dialogue saying, "I love you, brother."
some of the funniest people I know are soldiers,
Yeah,
and soldiers with soldiers, and humor is a coping mechanism.
it is.
Insulting one another is a coping
Yes,
mechanism,
yes,
and talking about your wives
yes.
is a coping mechanism, and the grab assing is a coping mechanism. And so, you know, I sort of stayed away. There are some sort of humanish conversations in the film, and we certainly get a sense of the hope and aspirations of some of these characters. But this may be sort of an odd segue, but there's something that you brought. There are a few critics that said, "Yeah, you know, we don't get to know the personalities of these people more. We don't get to know them, and well, you know, some of them I don't really recognize from one scene to the next because they have helmets on and their hairs are shorn and so on." And I will tell you, I have a theory about the people that say that. And my theory, it's really an odd one. I think those people are looking at the movie on iPads or on computers.
Yeah.
Because when you look, and so I'm begging everyone that's watching, watch this on this movie was intended for the big
Big
screen.
screen and
You know, it
loud.
went down because of COVID. It's the only reason you're watching at home. So watch it on the best screen that you got. If you have got um, a really good TV screen or even a mediocre TV screen and a good sound system, watch it that way. If you want to, if all you got is your iPhone, do me a favor. I'll give up the couple of bucks. Don't. In fact, I don't see anything anyway. I'm going to let the VVS lose a couple of bucks. Don't even download it. I want you to see this movie the best way possible. And that means the most immersive experience possible. Because on those screens, everything gets a little too dark and you don't see the faces. You know, the movie just won't be as good. So watch it the best way that you can.
There's a couple of things. Rod Lurie, by the way, who is the director of the Outpost. The camera work is fantastic. The editing is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I want to
Lorenzo
ask,
Senatore is the cinematographer. Michael Duffy is the editor.
unbelievable. Orlando Bloom, Scott Eastwood, Caleb Landry Jones, and a great group, including 4 survivors who you asked to actually mentor these guys and come back and relive this.
Yeah.
And I know at some point, when they all gathered, you had to say something to them about why you were doing this and what you're trying to hope to accomplish, and instill in them what you saw.
Mm-hmm.
What was that moment like?
Well, it's a very personal moment, but and private. But I can tell you that when these guys set foot on our set and they were back on the Outpost, it was profoundly emotional, and there were these grown men, grown heroes that are crying.
Yeah.
And I knew that we had gotten it right. And I showed the commander of the unit, a guy named Stoney Portis, a brilliant guy, and the doctor, Chris Cordova, We went from the set and we went to my editing room and I showed them a couple of scenes. And when we were done, I turned to them and said, "So what do you think?" Which is what your director always does. "So what do you think?" And they were quiet for 3-4 minutes, and I don't mean that hyperbolically. They were quiet for 3 or 4 minutes, and Stoney, through tears in his voice, said, "I promised Gallegos' parents I would get him home alive, and I didn't." Gallegos is one of the characters who passes away, winner of the Distinguished Service Cross. I showed the movie to the families of the fallen last October, and that was really, oh my God, man! I mean, that's profound. But the thing is that when you lose your child, or lose your husband, or your dad, or lose anybody, I think that after a while, when your biggest fear is that they will just be forgotten to the cloud of history, they're just gone. There's no consequence anymore.
Sure.
It sucks. It's awful. It's what we fear most about ourselves.
Sure.
But
you did right then.
Yeah, I think the movie did right, and I think that their names can be spoken for a long time. And I dedicated it to Hunter, my son.
Of course you did.
And that'll be, so his name will be spoken.
He was there on the set. I mean,
oh yeah,
you had his photo on the side of your monitor.
Yeah, I did, and people would come in if anyone would come in to bitch about something, they'd look at his photo and go, "See you later." I'll go deal with this. But Terry, I don't want to give the when I talk about this stuff, I know it's very emotional, but I don't want to give the sense that you're going to go to this movie and feel like you're eating spinach. You're going to leave this movie feeling very moved and very, very inspired. I believe, because like I said, in the end, these guys showed what people are capable of. When I was a cadet at West Point, I was going to go to a special program called SERI, Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape.
Yep.
And it's really a sucky thing. But somebody told me before I went in, when you think you have fully exhausted everything you're capable of, you're only 10% of the way there.
There you go.
And
I recognize that.
Yeah, that's really, you know what I'm talking about. That's really what this movie is about. You will never forget these dudes. I mean, these are some really impressive guys.
I know the mission was counterinsurgency, but the real mission, as we hear in the dialogue, was survival.
Yeah.
How did they? I know that Scott's character says, they're looking down on the outpost, seeing what the Taliban will see, and saying, "That we need that ammunition right there.
Yeah,
that's what we protect." That was the start of that. I wanted to hear a little more about what else they would do, but frankly, then they just did it. How did they survive? How did they manage to do that?
They did it through leadership, and through a love of one another. That is what they used to survive, and they're very skilled soldiers. Now, one thing that's kind of interesting is that when you look at other movies about the Afghanistan war or the Iraq war, you look at American Sniper, you look at a movie like Lone Survivor, 12 Strong. These are all elite units. These are all the SEALs, the Rangers, the Special Forces.
Yeah.
This movie, The Outpost, is about regular infantry grunts. Bravo,
Cav.
1 Cav. These are not the kind of men that you make movies about until now. Until now. These guys just wanted to go home after this. They're not trying to win medals, man. They really just are begging to survive. And when they saw what was happening to their mates, they knew what to do. There is that line in Patton that he really said, "When you put your hand in a bunch of goo that was once your best friend's face, you'll know what to do."
Yeah. What did you ask of your actors?
I asked a lot of my actors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I cut them no fucking slack at all, and I told them that. I told them that in the audition process. I say, if you come, you join me. It's not going to be the greatest time. It will be when you're done. You will look back and say it's the greatest professional moment of my life to be in this film, but it's going to suck. I'm going to put you through basic training. We had British actors in the film. I said, if I ever hear a British accent, there are going to be a lot of push-ups, and there were a lot of push-ups. Um, but we also had veterans in the film, actors who had been vets, so that was helpful. But I put him through the ringer, and it was not. This was not a. I think that the men themselves formed a very strong bond, and they went and stayed in the same hotel, and they came to work together, and they went through all their shit together. They probably complained about me, and they complained about the military advisors and trainers together. But in the end, we ran as much like a military unit as we could.
Okay. What time's your next?
It's a couple minutes.
Okay. All right. Let me just cut to the chase here.
Sure.
How is the film business going to survive 2020?
The film business is got some really good leadership in it, and it's got some very incentivized people, and it's got an audience that is very, very, very hungry for what they've had their whole lives. This is the primary form of entertainment that we have in this country,
Sure.
and in Canada too. That in sports, and there's just too much at stake. But it's going to be very, very difficult. When we have a vaccine, it will make life quite a bit easier. Or even when we have a testing system that can be instantaneous, it'll be much easier. But right now, like I can understand how you can maybe have a small film with a small crew and get extremely contained. I can understand that.
Sure.
What I don't know is how you do like a Mission Impossible, where you've got hundreds and hundreds of people involved, and what happens when 2 or 3 of them get this virus? What do you do? Insurance companies right now are not insuring films, and not for COVID anyway.
Sure.
And so I think it's going to be a while, and it's really unfortunate because I really, really want to get back to creating. That's what we do, is we create, and a lot of people need to work, and so I'm hoping, but it's not going to be easy. It's going to be rough.
Last question: when you put your head down at night, when you do put your head down at night, and you say goodnight to Hunter,
yeah,
is this the best work you've done?
Yeah. Oh my God. I go see. I spread his ashes in several places, including the location of the Outpost. But there's also a mountain close by, and I climb the mountain every Saturday, and I give him an update on what's going on. I don't believe in God, but I do believe in heaven, and I think that's where I've spread his ashes, and that's fuck, man, this movie means everything to me. And Paige, my daughter, she was right. I had to go. I don't even know what would have come of me if I didn't have this film. To Joe Biden talks about when his son died, needing that purpose, and this is my purpose, and so we've accomplished it. And I don't want to turn people off from saying this is not some really like woe is me thing at all. I just love my son, and what I can tell you is that I put my best effort to do the best work for my son.
That's a wrap.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much, Terry. You're a good man. I appreciate it.
I'll see you down the road at the Broadcast Film Critics Awards.
I really hope so.
Thank
Remember
you,
Caleb.
Thank you.
And our song.
Bye. Oh, yeah.
Bye-bye. Cheers, Terry.
Okay,
bye.